Hey, this is Barker Madness. I'm Matt. That's Ben.
Down there.
Sometimes the shot go away.
And
Sometimes you wouldn't go away.
Aaron can't talk, but he's down
I'm here.
too.
I am right down in the bottom right.
That's right. And we're joined again by our I don't even want to say special guest, just given it you've come on so much, but
He's our
Wesley
guy.
Ross. How's it going, Wesley?
Howdy.
So
Tubi.
Yes,
Quick-
tonight's
I'm not
podcast is
Tubi.
brought to you by Tubi.
Tubi.
we need to start coming up with
That little ring around your waist.
That
The Tubi.
little glint in your eye.
Yes.
This week we are doing an Aaron pick. This was one that you suggested even I think even before we did Onward, but
Yeah, you
came up-
wanted to do Onward more.
yeah, but it kind of
So we did what Matt wants to do.
Right, we always do. Now it's fitting the schedule, so we're gonna do a deep dive on Clue, and I have a couple questions about murder mysteries I want to ask you guys just to see if you guys agree with me. I had a thought at the end of watching this movie, but
All right.
let's start with Clue, which came out in
1985.
1985. Wow,
Wow.
doesn't seem that old.
No.
I mean, it looks like it was shot then.
Seems
Yeah.
like a 90s movie. Like early 90s.
Well, that's 85 for you. 90s minus 5.
So Wesley, I when we asked you to come on, it was like relatively late in the day yesterday, and you were like, I haven't seen this in over 20 years.
Well, it's free on Amazon Prime right now. I just found that out last night.
Oh man, I paid for it.
I watched it on Crackle, which I guess is the thing.
And if it was on Tubi, we would have watched it on there.
I
We
wish,
would've. I wish it was on Tubi.
yeah, that's their motto. I wish it was Tubi. I wish it was on Tubi.
Tubi. If it's not on there, then it's not anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah,
We don't have it, nobody does.
that sounds truthful.
Tubi.
So Wesley, when you saw Clue, or when you heard that we were doing Clue, what was your first thought?
My first thought was I almost watched this last week, so
Good
I was like,
pick.
okay, well I guess I am gonna watch this.
It's the universe telling you.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Are
and,
you guys catching that lawnmower in the back of my...
I can't hear it.
No.
Oh,
That's good.
sweet sounds.
Even though this is pre-recorded, I'm going to leave this all in.
Yeah, cool.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah.
Save yourself 5 minutes of editing.
So obviously, Aaron wanted to watch this, but
I watched it twice.
you watched it twice.
Oh yeah, I like this movie.
The plot really is just. I mean, it's obviously based off of the game, and it has all the characters and the weapons and the rooms and stuff. But it had a. Have any of you seen House on Haunted Hill?
If I did, it was a long time ago.
It has one. I mean, I'm sure that it's not even that unique, but it has that like invite everybody to the party feel, and then figure out
Yes.
who did it,
Who done it?
who done it.
There you go.
So what I guess just to start off with Clue, what came to mind rewatching it for you, Aaron?
Well, the main reason I watch it is for the physical comedy. Like I'm gonna tell you right now, the plot doesn't matter a whole lot, especially with the way they have the multiple endings.
Well, you want to know something about the multiple endings?
What do I want to know?
Here's a little tidbit of trivia.
Okay.
When it was released in theaters, it didn't have multiple endings. The multiple endings were on each different reels.
Yeah, so different
when
theaters
people
got
saw
different
it,
endings, yeah.
Someone else did it. There was different endings. So when it came and released,
Which
on
is
video, on
genius.
DVD, they put the multiple endings in and changed it. So when people saw it, there was different endings throughout.
And I love that aspect.
I do too. I like that too.
But like I said, I don't watch this movie for the plot. The plot is there, and it makes more or less sense. And it has its bobs and weaves. It goes all over the place. But what sticks for me is all the characters are so perfectly played, and they're all funny. And there are I can attribute some of my hardest laughs to this movie. Some. I like it a lot.
It's a very funny movie. Go ahead.
My favorite memory was I still remember it. It's my favorite part is anything with the maid. Yes, She's nice.
I can give you 2 reasons why.
Yeah. A couple reasons.
Well,
Anyways,
Wesley, what about you? Did rewatching this? Obviously, you had an itch to watch it, given what you said. But once you finally did, what stood out for you?
You know, it didn't feel. I was expecting more plot. Upon rewatching it, I remember it being more plotty, but that's probably just because I was so young. And like trying to remember when certain things happen in the movie. Like Aaron
you
said,
may as well
it doesn't
give
really
up.
Matter. It's a vehicle. It's a straight up vehicle for physical comedy. And once I kind of accepted that this time, because at first I was like, this isn't really doing it for me. And then once
the maid wasn't doing it for you.
But the maid was definitely doing it for me. But
you should get a look at her now.
I saw.
What?
Yeah. But no, like plot wise,
don't do it, Ben.
I was expecting it to be a lot more engrossing than it was, but it's not. And once I kind of accepted it for what it was, I had a lot more fun with it.
And it's not to say that the movie wasn't well made either.
No, it's not that at all. It's just that's not what this movie is. It's not
Aaron, do you picture through the movie watching of Wesley the scene in Popeye when he's trying to spin it? Yeah, I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to. No. And then I accepted it.
No, like there's like the plot isn't like amazing, but the movie puts its interest elsewhere. Like the trivia bits of how the house is laid out, just like the board of the actual board game, stuff like that. They put a lot of love into this movie, just not in the plot.
It's not the plot, and it's more when I started seeing. It wasn't that I was refusing it, Ben. It was that I was like,
well, Popeye does eventually eat the spinach.
Yeah, I was trying to remember what it was about, like, because I have memories of it, and I was like, this doesn't feel familiar, and so I kind of just let it go and started to see what it was for, which is it's a callback to itself. There's a lot of callbacks in the movie to itself.
Yes, it's self-referential.
Yeah, and so like once I started realizing this is straight up just a vehicle to make some jokes.
It's an SNL sketch.
Yeah. Yes. Very much. A very long SNL sketch.
Well, this is something that I wanted to ask you guys is it's obviously playing for comedy. I mean, that goes without saying, given the cast and the very intentional jokes. But would you call it still a murder mystery movie? Like it had, like, would you even?
Oh yeah.
Refer to it as that? It sounds like
personally.
You wouldn't, Wesley?
No.
Ben,
It's more of a spoof on. It's a spoof on those movies.
It is a spoof, but it still falls within the constraints.
I mean, it's a movie made after a board game.
Yeah, it's a sketch.
An incredibly well done version of a board game.
That's all it is. So there's an older movie, and I talked about it last week, called Murdered by Death, 1976. It's very similar, but it's the plot is like 5 famous literary detective characters and their sidekicks are invited to a bizarre mansion to solve an even stranger mystery, and it has Peter Falk in it. And I remember like one of the lines that Peter Falk in it was when I used to go to, I think it was Lowe's Theater at the time. They used to have this mashup of different things, and then they showed that scene from all these different movies, and that Peter Falk scene. What is that movie from? It was so good, and it was from that movie. And Al Guinness is in that movie too, and so is
Peter Sellers.
Peter Sellers, yeah.
And
a full performance by Peter Sellers.
Yeah, he's of Wuhan descent.
James Cromwell's in that movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like
Babe.
James Cromwell.
He like looks at his computer screen. Yeah. I knew
that'll
that.
do, Wesley. That'll
Maggie
do. Maggie Smith, who's always been Maggie Smith, old.
Mm-hmm.
She's
She's like 30 in that.
Yeah, she looks old. Her and Angela Lansbury. Her and Maggie Smith. Peter, you become a pirate. Hello, boy.
She's like the Patrick Stewart of women. Both very good actors.
So
Yes.
I guess where
Engaged.
I fall on this with Clue, I actually
I'm sorry. Are you okay?
what
I think he's
Said he
commenting
fell.
how you fell. I don't even have my soundboard with me. I'll just clap.
no, so where I fell with this, I don't know. I never thought of it as like, oh, it's just the board game. I thought the characters were put together well enough that
It
and
doesn't
especially
rely on the board game at all.
I mean, Tim Curry like immediately throws board game connection to me kind of out the window. But what I actually still considered it like an actual murder mystery. Like even though it was 4 jokes, I was still kind of interested in where it was the who did it basically.
I wasn't until the multiple endings, to be honest with you, because I wanted it to be something definitive, and I think I got a little frustrated with that.
Well,
when I first watched it, and I'm like, that's kind of a little frustration. It's like, man.
Well, and that's kind of where I wanted to go with this whole, because I agree with you. I'm exactly the same, except I didn't get frustrated. I was like, wait a minute. When it got to the multiple endings, it actually made me realize I didn't like the pieces and the clues didn't matter. Like it,
yeah, and I think it probably
ended up in any payoff, and like that's what's actually interesting is that any configuration of things, as long as it had a payoff, was somewhat satisfying if the rest of it was good.
And I think we probably would have enjoyed it if it was out in theaters and we watched it in theaters in the true way of showing it without the multiple endings.
Yeah,
I think we would have liked it better.
See, I liked seeing all the endings, and the only one that really interested me at all was the fact that there was the one that was there's no murderer, that they were all guilty of one of the murders because they all had a bone to pick.
Yeah, that was the last ending.
That's probably the one that we were going to probably use maybe in this. Let's just do multiple ones.
That is what the title slides say, but this is what really happened. It's the final
That one
ending.
also had the best final joke.
Yeah, I'm gonna go home and sleep with my wife.
Yeah, I was gonna hold that until the end. Yeah, I'm going home and sleep with my wife.
Yeah, I can't decide whether I like Tim Curry or Mr. Green. It's Mr. Green.
Yeah,
I can't decide if I like him more than Tim Curry.
About
Michael
Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah, he's good too, but pretty understated in this movie.
I come and go whenever I please.
He has some very Doc Brown
Yeah.
some very Doc Brown moments in it that are.
I actually thought he was the weakest of the cast.
You shut your mouth.
I don't know. Colonel Mustard's not that great, but he's fine.
True. That's true.
I like Colonel Mustard.
Colonel Mustard has no calories.
I guess it's worth pointing out at this point that all the characters wear colors opposite of their color name.
Do you know the name of the guy who plays Colonel Mustard? I can't remember.
I used to.
Rance Wilder.
Was he one of the guys on Sabrina the Teenage Witch? I think he was, yeah.
And Roseanne. The cat.
What?
Wasn't he the voice of a cat?
No, that was the guy who did one of the Angry Beavers.
No.
No, the
two Angry Beavers.
Yeah, that show that never happened ever.
He was in Roseanne, though. He had a great.
Yeah. But like I said, everybody wears the opposite color of their moniker. It took me a minute to get that, but I found it.
Well, and they all assumed a fake name, which I thought was a cool. I like that detail.
But they were missing one character from it.
Who?
From the game? General Ketchup.
Do we stop the show now, or?
Oh, well, there was one there was one character that just goes with everything, though.
Go on.
Lieutenant Ranch.
I like that one better. Okay. I'm gonna give you full points.
Really, you can go with anything. You can go with anything.
All right. So one thing I just have to get into. Yeah, I'm gonna be upset if we don't, because you brought up the one movie you were watching, Ben.
Death by Murder, Murder by Death.
Murder by Death.
I watched the 2 movies that I watched relatively recently were Knives Out and the original Murder on the Orient Express, which had the C ending for this, where everybody is kind of involved. Had some little ties back to that, but even though Clue is a comedy, I'd be curious what you guys think are like. when you think about a murder mystery, what are the components that actually make it a successful one? Like, what are the things in the end? Because after watching this, I've kind of hinted at it. I changed my mind a little bit. So I'm curious what you guys think.
I'll go first.
I think the best. I think.
You go ahead, Ben.
Oh, never mind. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I think that the most important component to me is that the movie drops you hints, but they have to be extremely subtle. You have to be able to piece it together, at least in retrospect, or else it's just not satisfying.
Yeah, it should be like what seems like passive dialogue should come back later. Like in the moment, you're like, that's just fluff.
Or when somebody sets something down or picks something up.
Yeah. And passive things.
Right.
I actually think audience participation. And what I mean by this is like
Blue's Clues style? Who had the pipe?
See, Knives Out did
Was it
those things
Mr.
really
Plum?
well.
Or Professor?
The things you're talking about, Aaron, Knives Out did really well, where even the things that seem extraneous aren't.
You know, like a Hitchcock movie. Like they're not murder mystery per se, but there's mysteries and clues and things that you're like, who did it? Who did, like what is this? What's going on? Things even some M. Night Shyamalan movies are the same way. You mean this way of trying to not make it obvious, but also try not to make it a twist.
It needs to not be opaque,
stupid and ridiculous. You mean, but still very smart. You mean not subverting my expectations, just of laziness with it, but also not making me expect things too. So it's a delicate balance.
It's a tightrope.
The audience has to be involved. The audience has to be.
It's like sleight of hand.
Well, also it's sleight of hand, but also the audience should also be the main character. The man who knew too much. You are part of that character watching. I mean, you are like it. You know.
And another aspect to your question, Matt, in my opinion, is excuse me, is what kind of murder mystery are you trying to make? Are you trying to make one that's slightly comedic or one that's extremely serious, like Gosford Park, which I think is one of the best murder mysteries, but it's not comedic in any way. It's extremely dramatic.
Gosford Park.
It's Robert Altman's final film.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it.
Usual Suspects. That's a good one.
Yes, it is.
A good one as well. Yeah.
I mean, it's not a murder mystery, but it's the same formula almost.
So the couple things that I kind of realized after watching at least the three that I referenced, one of which includes Clue. I'm going to include it. Is I actually, from like a ensemble cast standpoint, while I think it adds like the texture and you can latch on to everybody and everybody's kind of individually memorable. I actually think the heavy lifting is really done by, it's really a one person has to be right for the movie to be really good, or even for a book or whatever to be great. And that's kind of like your lead detective character. If that character is not interesting or engaging at all, it doesn't work.
Well, that's why I like Peter Falk and Murder by Death, but anyways, go on.
By the way, in Gosford Park, Maggie Smith stars.
Who?
Maggie Smith.
Yeah.
Maggie Smith. Excuse me.
But I mean, and I also don't. And one thing that, while I think their ability to be competent is, I think Knives Out tried to challenge us a little bit with the need for even Daniel Craig's character to be that way. But if they pull it together at the end, then it works. Like, you have to have like a respect for that lead detective character. And even in this, like, what added to the humor was that at the end they kind of subverted it, that it was, or they not subverted but twisted it around, that Tim Curry was the FBI agent. But if your main if the most
Tim Curry wasn't the FBI agent.
In one of them he was.
He was.
Okay, you're right.
I thought he was for two of them.
Was he?
I thought it was A and B.
Mr. Green is the agent in the last ending.
Yeah.
Mr. Butty.
Mr. Butty. And who is he? He's my butler.
And what do you do? I buttle, sir.
I buttle. Mr. Yeah.
See what you're saying, Matt? Matt, I slightly disagree. If you watch Knives Out carefully, the whole like Benoit Blanc is a bumbling
Yeah,
buffoon
boy.
is just part of his technique of to make people think that to be more trusting around him, to think that they can. It's a hubris, like to giving them hubris, because the reveal is that he knew all along what was happening because he saw the blood on the shoe.
Right, and that's what I mean is that it by the end the reason you will go along with it or feel like it's earned when they finally do their big reveal is, oh, they were competent the whole time, and here's why. Here are the things I noticed.
Is that the Clouseau factor? I don't know. I'm sorry, what, Ben?
What'd you say?
Is that the Clouseau factor?
Oh.
Because I don't know. Clouseau doesn't always know what's going on, but sometimes he does.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing I would ask you guys for these movies is, how do you feel about the big tie it all together speeches at the end of the movie?
That was some of the funniest parts. Was Tim Curry frantically running through the night's events?
Around.
Yeah, that was very funny. Like it took a normally tedious type of thing to do in a movie, and it made it entertaining to me.
Yeah. And Mr. Green, can you stop?
No.
No. No.
There is a Frasier episode where there was a murder mystery or whatever.
Yeah, I know that one.
That was very funny. Very funny.
When Tim Curry throws Mr. Green into the bathroom, and then Mr. Green comes out with the toilet flushing and is wiping his hands. That got me. And it's like 2 seconds later, too. There's no way he could have gone to the bathroom that quickly.
Yeah, it's a joke.
Thanks, Ben.
Basements are like that.
And the whole idea that he's paired with the maid is hilarious.
Yeah, who's going to go with her? I will. Not me. And when they're poised at the bottom of the stairs, he and the maid, and they're like just trying to decide who goes first, and they just don't move, and the camera hangs on them for a good while, and then it cuts to some other scene. When it comes back, they're still right there. Got me. So simple.
So one thing I wanted to call back again, just because I got to the point at the end of my notes. Also, the last thing I wrote is communism is a red herring, which is a great line that they repeated several times.
Yeah, they use it in all three endings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I want to circle back a little bit to the three endings part, and in talking about this like wrap up. For me, I'd be curious what you guys think is more important. Is the kind of the summation of all of the things that happened and the person explaining it, even if you didn't like have an opportunity to go down the various rabbit holes, or it was so subtle that you couldn't really latch. Is that summary ending more important than feeling like you could predict it at the end? Like you could actually follow the clues and figure out who it was?
In every case of a murder mystery, I think that being able to figure it out yourself is most important, because we rag on this type of explanation in almost any other movie. What was it, Psycho? Yeah, we hated it.
Yes.
But in this movie, it's different because it's a slapstick, and they purposefully made the plot as convoluted as possible. Well, maybe not as possible, but it's convoluted on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So it works here, but normally it would be bad form. Hard to say.
I feel like that's almost part of the formula, and maybe it's from like a book. I don't want to over exaggerate, but it feels like almost like an extension of murder mystery books, where you don't get like when you're combing through set dressing details and all these paragraphs and all these other things. It's so hard to keep track of everything that at the end you almost need somebody to kind of step through it.
Certainly didn't need it in Psycho.
Yeah. I don't know. I started to rethink a little bit that like how much I latch onto the characters more than I do the clues, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have to decide what type of movie you're making. And that at this point, a murder mystery is a genre rather than a story, where you could say, I'm making a movie about 17th century France, but that doesn't tell you anything about the movie other than the setting.
Not at all.
With with this movie, you can, or not this movie, with murder mysteries, you could use that formula or that setting to tell them different kind of story. And I'll go back to Gosford Park. Gosford Park is a movie about a lot more that is based in a murder mystery, or something like Knives Out. Knives Out is about a lot more than a murder mystery, and it creates, it gives you a sense of stakes and intrigue for the story you're trying to tell. So depending on what you're trying to tell, this is a great way or a great avenue to use for that. And just how they do it, it seems like they're not something that you can do all the time. It's sort of like, Looney Tunes, there's that trick you can only do once. It's like these things can only be really, really successful once in a while.
It's a flash in the pan sort of thing,
Yeah.
Certainly
you
not
have to
like
have
Westerns.
More, because it's a trope, like the murder mystery.
Could you imagine the Clue cinematic universe starring Robert Downey Jr.? 20 movies of mysteries.
You'd be a good butler. You'd be a very interesting butler.
Oh, man. What's going to happen to Butler Iron Man?
Butler Iron Man. Terrible.
It's a different form of storytelling.
Can I pose a query to the group?
A quibby?
A query.
Oh.
I thought you said Quibi too.
This is a Tubi. This is a Tubi show.
This is
All
a
right.
Tubi channel, not a Quibi.
Can I pose
show,
a Tubi
right?
to the group?
We've blown
Tubi.
way past 10 minutes.
Funniest part of the movie, go. Funniest bit. I can go first.
I would just say the reenactment in general was my favorite. Was my favorite. I think that my favorite specific moment is the singing telegram.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
The timing on that scene is 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
And
That's the funniest one.
the first time I saw that movie, this movie, and I saw that scene, and that was one of those times where you're laughing so hard that nothing's coming out, and you're choking, and your face is turning red.
It's very Warner Brothers.
Tears coming down. It's so
it's very
funny.
Roadrunner, right? You know. La, 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 la.
I got a trivia bit for that. You know that singing telegram girl is one of the Go-Go's?
No.
Yeah. Wow. Hey, Tubi, you getting a load of this comedy? You should sponsor
Yes.
us.
Always.
I would say the go home and sleep with my wife. 'Cause that's fucking hysterical.
That's
I'm
good.
gonna go home
I
and
think I'm
sleep
gonna
with my wife.
I think I'm gonna say I love the cop, the first cop. He was hysterical. He had me. He just was so funny. I can't.
Hold
I can't
on.
put my finger on what exactly, but
Wait,
he was so funny.
help me out here. Which scene in particular?
Like the entire bit with, why did you lock the door?
Yeah.
It's just like the
Why
way
did
he,
you lock him in again?
Yeah, it's just the whole thing, how he's like,
I feel
The
like
whole,
something strange is going on around
why do you
here.
have J. Edgar Hoover calling your house?
He doesn't see the blood dripping down from the people's heads. He's like, oh, they're just having a good time.
It's just everything with the
There's
cop,
nothing
like,
illegal
cracked me
about
up.
all
Just like,
this.
why you all act so nervous? The chandelier fell and nearly killed us all. Just like,
And there was one bit that feels like they didn't try hard enough with, and that was how the Tim Curry stepped in dog crap on the way into the house at the very beginning, and then people kept smelling it. They never really went anywhere with that.
Oh.
Huh.
I thought maybe it'd be. I bet they maybe even. It feels like something they wrote into an initial draft they would pull together later. Is like the
somebody
final.
should have slipped on a pile of dog crap in the end or something, as a part of their plan being foiled, whatever.
Well,
or just like a line like something in here stinks.
And everybody looks at their shoes again.
Every single new person that shows up also gets it on their shoes.
Yeah.
so one would say that bit was shit.
That was good, dude. 10 out of 10.
Any all right. Any last thoughts about Clue or anything else we've talked about before we rate the movie?
Oh no!
It's backwards. You gotta flip it, dude.
It's backwards.
On.
On.
You look very switched on.
No!
It's my no button.
That almost sounds like
actually
you
sorta
through
sounds
the.
like you.
Yeah.
No! 1,000 times no!
Is it? That has to be you.
That sounds like Ben.
It's not me. It's not me.
No.
It sounds like
exactly
you
like
over
you.
this sound system.
No.
It's not me.
I believe you, but over this sound system, it totally does sound like you. My great and worthy opponent? No.
No.
Let's rate the movie, Matt.
All right. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I gave it a 6 out of 10. I like this movie a lot. I think everyone should see it, but I don't consider it to be, high cinema. It's not a Scorsese type of film cinema,
Oh, hey, you snob, stop.
But no, I love it, and I think everyone should see it.
The people.
That's my rating.
I'd probably get a 5.5. 6 when I was a kid.
What is this waffling? Give it a hard number.
I'll give it a 6.
All right.
Because I enjoyed it the first time I watched it. And then as I got older, watching it later, it's like not as good as that.
Every time after that, it got worse and worse. Now I hate it.
Yeah.
I'll go next. I can't believe that I'm going to be the highest of us. I
Really?
gave it 7.
Wow. I'm proud of you, Matt.
I thought so. What pushed it above was it was like an even distribution. Like it didn't try to be too many things. It didn't try to only be funny or only do a murder mystery with some. I thought it was just like consistently really good all the way through.
I would say, yeah, it was paced pretty well too, considering all that has to happen.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's short. I mean, once you take out 2 of the endings, it's probably hour 20, maybe
Hour
even
15, maybe less. I mean, that's just because it's short doesn't mean it flows well. I mean, I tried to watch Cobra the other day. That movie doesn't flow at all. It starts out strong and then.
That's true. I mean, I thought this was what made it for me was I've said it several times was actually Tim Curry for sure. I mean, it's just such a fun performance, and then all the little like chaotic things that are happening and how they skirt room to room. I thought it was just super fun, and
it would have been passable without him, but still not the same.
Yeah, and actually I would say the kind of meta-ness of the multiple endings adds something to it. I'm sure other people. I looked at some reviews, like on Wikipedia, it talks all about how Ebert and Siskel hated the endings.
Yeah, what do they know?
Undercut stuff, but I thought it added something to it, and it fit.
It's hard to say what, but it does.
So
it's got that je ne sais quoi.
What I think the endings add is that it shows that it almost
it's like the board game.
It comments on the formula to me of these types of movies. I know you can say murder mystery for anything, but like these kind of bottled types of scenarios where a bunch of people are trying to figure out who did it in the house or whatever. I think this movie kind of points out that like you're kind of just there for the ride almost, and then to see what happens at the end.
Well, I interpret it differently, Matt. I interpreted that the ending showed that nothing really mattered. So it's nihilistic.
That's what I mean.
And life doesn't matter. And
I feel like you're going somewhere with this.
Sauce.
I feel like you're all kind of missing the point, honestly. The point is that communism is a red herring.
No, that's right. You're right.
Did you guys like how the first person to die was a body the whole time? His name was Mr. Body.
Do you think they planned that?
Body.
Did they plan that? It's almost too convenient.
Yeah. All right, Wesley, bring us home. What's your rating?
I'd give it a 6 out of 10. I think you gotta have an idea of what you're in for with this one, like, and you won't have kind of the trouble getting on board like I did at the beginning.
It's not a Rian Johnson movie.
Once I got halfway through, I just started it over and watched it from the beginning and was like, okay, I know
Matt,
what I've got.
Can you paste in an audio clip of Rian Johnson laughing? I'll show you the clip you need. And have it be over a clip of Joker from last year's Joker laughing.
Okay. All right. I can do that.
Thank you.
Nerd. Nerd.
What are we doing next week, Matt?
Next week, we're bringing back the Good, Bad, and Ugly, and we're doing Thanksgiving.
Available on Tubi.
Yes, it is.
Or not to be. But I prefer
No,
to.
it's on Tubi. Yeah.
We're doing that April appropriate film about Thanksgiving.
What about that one about the pandemic?
Birdemic.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe we can do that.
I guess it makes sense for Thanksgiving. You know.
I mean, I'm giving thanks to Tubi for giving us great service year round.
Thank you, Tubi. Thank you for everything you do, Tubi. Tubi.
Any last thoughts before we go?
Come on, Tubi. That's got to be worth like $5 right there.
Here's one. Tubi, 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 Tubi.
Tune in next week, kids.